Welcome to episode 13 of Where in the World, the detailed showcase of cities and locations that have been visited in the Arcane Adventures campaign setting. Check out the map on screen to see the general location of where we are for today's episode. Let's jump right in to episode 13, Where in the World, Sandera and the Sandera Cubes. Nestled in the scorching sands of the Sphinx Desert, surrounded by wind-whipped dunes on every side, lies a vibrant heartbeat of culture and civilization. Welcome to Sandera, the regional hub for the desert region of Bupilasu. Adobe houses and mud brick structures dot the sprawling city as sand-laden streets wind and twist between them. Unlike other, perhaps better kept settlements, Sandera does not have any infrastructural planning, and buildings are placed where needed, and streets adjust to that conformity. Sandera is a trade center, but much is to learn about why it is so. For starters, Sphinx silkworms are rather numerous in this area of the desert, which produce fine threads for exquisite fabrics and textiles throughout the city. This is the sole reason why, as one enters this civilization, a number of colorful tapestries and drapes can be seen across the city as a means of keeping the hot Anaran sun at bay. Additionally, the desert sand is perfectly combined with water to create beautiful pottery. Both textile and pottery lend to the city and its largest trade, most of which is made by hand and thus ensuring a higher quality and a more unique piece. Many merchants travel the dangerous dunes, which are home to the eastern Ilethian sandworms in this part of the world, to reach Sandera and trade their own wares to acquire Sanderian vases and linens. This elaborate trade generates a need for a space to do such, and, as it is found, standing in the center of a commerce-based society is the extensive and elaborate Sanderan bazaars. Perhaps one of the largest trade gatherings in this country. Elegant draperies and narrow alleyways crowd merchants together in a one-of-a-kind shopping experience. From traveling merchants to local vendors, the bazaar is full of foreign goods and Sanderian works alike. Another question arises, however. As there is no river or well to draw water, how does the city remain alive? The answer is simple, and can be found across all parts of the city, with a small net atop almost every building. During the later and evening hours, these nets are raised a few feet into the air, and are positioned to be perpendicular with the wind. As the dew from the cool night drifts through the desert skies, they cling to these nets and slowly drip down to fill pails, buckets, pots, and vases. The desert, alone, provides the water for survival. To the northeast of the city stands the House of Grimfang, home to Councillor Chakub Grimfang, who oversees the region of Sphinx. And to the southeast edge sits the government center. Granted, it hardly used, as most of the business occurs at the House of Grimfang, but it remains there nonetheless. The biggest address, however, is one that no eye could miss. The location that is first visited upon entering the city, and it's impossible to ignore. These are the gargantuan Sandera cubes, the three distinct floating blocks to the western edge of the city. These cubes are largely closed to the public, as they are a mixture of resting places and dangerous dungeons. The cubes, which have been here just about as long as the city has, leave many clueless as to why. Old historians would say that this was a meeting place for the revolution that ultimately led to the founding of Bupilasu itself. And others would continue on to say that this is also a resting place for those long-dead patriots. Either way, The cubes are a spectacular sight to behold, and even to tour small portions while visiting the city. The floating cubes occasionally have sand pour out of their faces and into the dunes far below. And even more secrets and mysteries lie within them, stories untold, and for another time. Sandera, as many would expect, very hot for most parts of the year. During the toreo season of summer, temperatures during the day soar to extreme highs, and at night, however, the desert is cool. Winds are known to whip across this portion of the desert, stirring up mighty dust storms that blast the city. Even during the winter months of the year, this part of the world remains temperate and hot. Rarely, during the flood seasons, thunderstorms may form over the desert and drop torrential downpours of monsoon water, which is another source of the valuable liquid that can be stored for later use, but also wreaks havoc on the desert sands and the city. A trade route across the dunes ventures south and leads all the way to Nexus City. As the desert slowly rescinds to plains in the southward direction. To the northeast, a road heads off that eventually splits into two paths, with one path cutting back to the northwest and leading off to Gold Hill Harbor on the shores of the day-ridden ocean. The other path continues northeast until it reaches Miragia on the shores of the Sphinx Oasis. We hope you have enjoyed this closer look at the city of Sandera and its beautiful and mysterious sights. While the desert is harsh in its own way, the life and community found here is beautiful. Take a trip to Sandera if you ever have the chance. Tour the cubes, wrap yourselves in fine silk fabrics, and watch out for those sandworms. That's all for this episode of Where in the World. We'll see you next time.